We're joined on the program by a senior human rights defender in Zimbabwe, Nkosilati Emmanuel Moyo. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa. Can you give us a sense of how excited the people are in Zimbabwe right now?
The people of Zimbabwe are very, very happy. I can tell that that they have today is very jovial from all the four corners of our country. People were very tired of the outgoing President Robert Mugabe, who had stayed in power for 37 years. So people were desperately in need of change of leadership in Zimbabwe, where they can get jobs, where they can get better health care, where they can get even food to put on their tables. So they are expecting a better Zimbabwe compared to the other one of this outgoing president.
In the speech, Mnangagwa promised to uphold the rule of law. What more can you tell us about some of the very important issues he addressed?
That one of upholding the rule of law on its own is a very important issue, because Zimbabwe was now a history or a record of lawlessness. But the new president said he will try to observe, to respect the rule of law and human rights, which some of us human rights defenders think that is a very good move if he's going to walk the talk and really do that. He also talked about the issue of food security through agriculture. Now Zimbabwe he has an agro-based economy. He said his government will try to make sure that agriculture to improve food security. He also talked about creating jobs, which I think makes people happy, because it's become a jobless country with an unemployment. The new president promised to create more jobs, something which can resonate with the young people, who most of them are graduates but were suffering from this issue of joblessness, because the unemployment rate in Zimbabwe had risen to up to about 80% plus. So if he is going to be able to create the jobs for the people, I think that's something which will be very positive, something which will be welcomed by the people of Zimbabwe and transform the lives of our people.
Creating jobs is very important. That's what most presidents and governments promise their people. But do you think he touched on some other important aspects of the issues that are affecting Zimbabweans right now?
Yeah, yes, he did, particularly the issue of creating jobs. Zimbabwe is now, most of our graduates are in the streets selling wares and living the nation of vendors. So when he said he will create jobs, I think that's a very critical issue which will see our people living the streets to go and get decent jobs. So I hope that it's not like that political talk of politicians, but something which he will really implement. The issue of the rule of law, which he also touched, is a very important issue. Zimbabwe had become a country of lawlessness through its repressive laws, which were being used by the outgoing president. People were beaten, people were tortured for their dissenting voice. So if he said he's going to uphold and respect the human rights and the rule of law, that's a very critical issue, which human rights defenders like us would want to see that change being implemented. So precisely, it has quite a number of issues which are affecting us as Zimbabwe. So we hope he will implement them and bring the change.
Thank you for your time, senior human rights defender in Zimbabwe, speaking to us there, Nkosilati Emmanuel Moyo. Let's move on. As against the earlier 6-year sentence, South African Paralympian Oscar Pistorius will spend an additional 7 years in prison for the murder of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. The Supreme Court increased his murder sentence to 13 years and 5 months after the state argued that his original sentence of 6 years was shockingly lenient. Pistorius was imprisoned in July last year after being found guilty on appeal of murdering the girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day 2013 in a case that attracted worldwide interest. The athlete was not in court for Friday's ruling, where the court handed down the minimum 15-year sentence prescribed for murder in South Africa and subtracted the years Pistorius had already served. Steenkamp's family welcomed the decision and said it showed that justice could prevail in South Africa.
We felt that we didn't have justice for Reeva. That's too lenient a sentence, but now we have justice for her.
I just feel that now we can get on with our lives, that everything has come to an end, and I, right from the beginning, always said justice hasn't been served. Today it has.
Let's get more on this. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, joins us live on the program. Betty, this is good news for the Steenkamp family and very bad news for Oscar and his family. How are they, reacting to this news? That's the defendant's family.
We had Oscar's brother, Carl, on Twitter all along while the judgment was being delivered, making comments here and there. But the bottom line, he was saying he's devastated, heartbroken, and gutted regarding that. Of course, that caused a little storm where people were reacting. No, now you can see how the Steenkamps have been feeling. But he reacted back as well, saying that, look, the loss, both sides have suffered losses, and the loss of River is part of their families, the Pistorius family's loss as well. And the Steenkamps, so of course they're happy, they have justice, but I'm sure closure may not be what they really have, because as they had said much earlier, I know they will want to know what exactly happened that day. They would want to know why he did what he did, which is part of what the prosecution was saying in court during the arguments. So they get to move on with their lives. Both sides, definitely you wouldn't want to be Oscar at this point. He's going to spend much more time than he expected to. Even if he's granted parole, he's going to spend much more time than he thought he would, given the earlier sentence he got.
Betty, it's not the first time the prosecution appealed this case. What changed this time around?
Well, I wouldn't say something changed, but the court that they have been, the court has been on a particular line, which is the line where it is. Remember, it was the High Court which sentenced Oscar to the few number of years. But the first appeal was to appeal against the verdict of culpable homicide, which Judge Masipa gave at the Pretoria High Court in 2014. Now, this Supreme Court of Appeal had upgraded that into a murder verdict in 2015, and now referred the case back to the same court to re-sentence Oscar. And Judge Masipa didn't exactly move too far away from her earlier sentence. And the state wasn't satisfied with that and went back again to appeal against that sentence, which they felt was too lenient. And for the state, the Supreme Court stood with the state and saying that it was too lenient to the point of having the effect that is trivializing the crime. The crime, that's the murder of River Steenkamp. So there are two different courts we're dealing with here, and the Supreme Court of Appeal has given the final word here.
Thank you so much, Betty Dibia, for your thoughts on that. Let's move on now. Still to come on Network Africa. A look at improving e-commerce in Nigeria. That's on our Africa Tech segment. Join us again.